Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic:
what is the worst lie you've been told your whole life? My friend was helping her boyfriend when his dad discovered he had cancer. A2E was distraught and went home often. It put a pretty big strain on their relationship. Finally, H's father succumbed and passed away. A2E broke up with her shortly after. 5 days later she got a call from His dead father asking if everything was okay between the two of them. He father never even had cancer. A2E made the whole thing up. This actually seems to be like a thing. My best friend in university had a boyfriend who kept blaming all his bad behavior on how he was struggling to cope with his sick and dying dad. After they broke up she realized his dad was fine. A year later we're at this party and she's acting really shitty, like hooking up in a bedroom with a guy she knows I like, while another guy she's involved with is sitting there with me also miserable about it. She comes out of the bedroom, sees us and starts crying hysterically. Tells us her dad is dying. Her dad was fine. It was like she learned a fun trick from her ex-boyfriend for getting out of dealing with people who are upset with you. Also the first was ever with fake to dying, and eventually dead, friend as an excuse for not staying in touch while we were apart over the summer. Said friend was completely fictional, and later faked having a deadly illness himself to excuse his shitty behavior. You really can't trust people. The moral of these stories: when someone tells you their father, mother is sick, dying, find them on Facebook or in the phone listening and contact them. Tell them how very sorry you are that they got cancer and that you are happy that their son, daughter is such a big support. Wish them a fast recovery. If they are actually sick you have done a good thing. If they are not sick the son, daughter will be hit by a ton of bricks from the parents. My ex-boyfriend's parents were dying all the time. Turns out it was just a meth addiction. We had a co-worker do this, and it was really shitty, too. He spent about a year working on and off from home, at a time when WFH was rare, so he could tend to his dying mother in hospice. When she passed away, he took a month bereavement and the entire office was, "He's such a devoted son," and all. We all got a card, and offered to come to the funeral, but he said it was private as per request of the family. But he had a link of, send donations to, the American Heart Association, and a funeral home where a memorial took place. On a freak coincidence, we hired someone who worked with him at a former job. When she started, he was away for the bereavement, so she didn't know. But when he returned, she got real weird about him. I went away for a vacation, but when I returned, the guy's cubicle was cleaned out. I asked what happened, and nobody would tell me, except, speak to your boss. My boss said he had decided to pursue other interests, and refused comment except to say not to discuss him with anyone else. I later found out that he faked everything. His real mom died when he was younger, and had been staging her death and everything at nearly every job he had worked at. It was a scam he was pulling. The new coworker confided in my boss when the lying coworker came back, saying apparently he'd been fired from the job they previously both worked out for doing this. And they found out he had done it to his previous company as well, so now they have 3 verified attempts to pull this stunt. He'd start with working for at least 90 days as an exempt employee, and then suddenly it starts with, "My mom was diagnosed with cancer," and he had a play he'd do. He'd fake phone calls with her medical team, and various relatives. He always made sure that people could hear him, and he'd hide in the break room with red eyes afterwards. He faked family drama, diagnoses. His mother could no longer drive, so he'd take her to appointments. He'd work, long after hours, in the office, to make up his work, and generally elicit sympathy from everyone, including management. They'd let him work from home, take time off, and he was really a good actor. I mean, I was completely fooled. I even thought, there's no way he was faking it. But yeah, he was. The memorial was for some unrelated woman. The time he was away for bereavement, he was in the Bahamas. In his previous job, the office took up a collection, which he never repaid back. Absolute scumbag. This seems like a lot of work, like how much harder was his actual job that this made sense. That jobs would look at my high school discipline records. Tears of joy. I've never even been asked for proof that I graduated high school when applying for a job. I'd be fucked if they did because I have no idea where my diploma is. No one should ever ask for a diploma, by the way. There are scungy sites all over the internet that sell fake ones. If an employer wants proof of graduation, they should request an official transcript, not a diploma. I used to work at a middle school. One day, a student came into my classroom and was really sad. I asked him what was up. He told me that he got in trouble, and the principal told him it would go on his permanent record. So I told him a secret, that it was all a lie. His face lit up so bright, and you see the relief in his body. It was a fantastic moment for both of us. Good on you for telling him. The first time I ever got in trouble at school, passed a note, my K-8 principal went on a whole speech about how it was going in my permanent record, no college or uni would accept me, no one would hire me and I'd never have a home or food, etc. It scared the hell out of me for a few months until she gave the exact same speech to my classmate for not handing in assignments, that's he'd handed in and she was hiding, and I realized it was a bullshit canned response she liked to doll out because she enjoyed upsetting children. Your father wouldn't do that. For me it was, Mom's boyfriend never beat you. Meanwhile I'm literally bleeding down my arm. Oh, I can join this club. Mine is, Mom's boyfriend never choked me when we got in an argument. Those marks around my neck. Self-inflicted, of course. If you still have contact with them, ask them if they know the gaslighter joke. Wanna share it? It's fixed in the next release. Project managers everywhere recoil in horror. Yeah, I'm in construction, we only get one shot at it. Ignore bullies, they'll get bored man facepalming. Punching them in the dick is much more effective. But then you get suspended for being aggressive. They only bully you because they know it makes you mad. Quote, no, they bully me because they're assholes. There's so much victim blaming in this culture it's absurd. This actually works but reality it's impossible to hide when they affect you. I was an autistic kid and literally didn't understand they tried to bully me, so they moved on to my friend who'd try to stare ahead without reacting but it was very obvious. So the bullies got that satisfaction and it got so bad she had to change schools. Whereas I would sincerely ask, what do you mean? Or when my bike tires were slashed just walk home without mentioning it and only years later I understood they tried to get a negative reaction out of me. I don't know how adults think ignoring works when 4 people surround you yelling. It's often like people don't actually remember being a child or teen skeptical smiley face. It's often like people don't actually remember being a child or teen. Or were one of the bullies and so minimized the impact it has on someone. I grew up in an Italian family. When I was about 10 to 14 years old I asked why they had a single long nail on their hand, and more specifically the pinky. They all told me it was because it made picking their nose easier. I believed this into my late 20s, till one day my co-workers informed me that it's a coke nail, then it all made sense. To be fair, it's an old custom of southern Italian people, and many others, to keep the pinky nail long to show that they were not farmers, working class. Also yes, cocaine. That older, pre-WW2 generation also used those nails to do little things like scratch inside their ears or open envelopes. They often kept them sharp, like a small blade. Everyone asks why Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka had a coke nail. It's because Jack Albertson was born in 1907. For that generation, it wasn't for drugs. That only started in the 1960s. Coke nails just have to be long. The utility nail was kept sharp, as well. Somebody asked Carrie Fisher if she kept her nail long for coke, after it was seen in an old photo. She said, no, I used a little spoon like a normal person. Quote, you will get a job based on your merits. Found out it's not the case at times, it's who you know, not what you know. I was thrown into a couple of really cool positions when I was 18 and 19 because I was really good at talking to people and making them feel comfortable. But was so inexperienced and over my head. Wish I had stuck it out, but super fun memories. That being said, it was so unfair towards those who had spent years actually learning the industry. I actually got several of my jobs early on by just convincing people to hire me without checking any references or turning in any application because I used to be very charismatic. I also liked people a lot more when I was younger. Nowadays I'm just like, hire me or don't, whatever. Quote, something something something, this is going on your permanent record something something something. Edit, 2000 internet points for this one lol. And where is permanent record kept? Santa. Mine went the other way. I got arrested as a juvenile. After the court system it ended up being a few misdemeanors and a violation. My lawyer promised me that it would be hidden due to my age and that I shouldn't tell anyone about it because they won't find it if they go looking. Fast forward 3 years, I go to enlist in the Navy, took the ASVAB, and then went in for a meeting to go over job selection, and the recruiter was like, why didn't you tell us you were arrested? So I said, my lawyer told me not to. And he was like, did you think we wouldn't find out? So I tried to tell them it had nothing to do with me trying to prevent people from finding out, but that because my lawyer told me not to tell anyone, so I just didn't. The Navy ended up saying something along the lines of, yeah, we don't want to deal with you today, get out of our office, we have no room for liars. So I stepped out, stepped to the right, walked into the Army recruiting office and said, here's my ASVAB, I should let you know, I was arrested when I was 16, but it's all resolved now, and the recruiter just laughed. And then I did 7 years in the Army. Man joined the Army out of spite. Legend. We're like a family. Multiple companies I have worked for. The Manson family. Ferengi rule of acquisition number 111 is proven time and time again. The best part is these companies end up being true to their word. We treat you like family. We take this entire relationship for granted. Quote, we treat you like family. We have a toxic, dysfunctional relationship. Quote, we treat you like family. We don't communicate for shit. Quote, rule of acquisition number 111. He means, treat people in your debt like family, exploit them. Quote, when I was a teen I was checked into a mental hospital for a suicide attempt. I was only there for 2 weeks before they discharged me on a load of medication and with weekly visits from home therapists for teens as well as a weekly visit from a therapist during school for an hour. After a few months I was feeling great and better. I had started showering every day and taking care of myself. My stepmom decided it was all bullshit and stopped the visits. My school therapist begged to see me in private even for free because as she said she was seeing so much progress from me. I denied out of fear of retaliation from my stepmom. She stopped buying me my medication and I spiraled into a bad place again. When I asked why she told me, the therapist at the mental hospital said there is nothing wrong with you and you are just lazy. They proceeded to convince me the home visits were just because I was stupid and extreme. Years later we were talking about mental health as my stepmom was now on medication for anxiety and my younger brother has to go to therapy for clinical depression. I pointed out that my family doctor sent me to a therapist out of concern where I was formally diagnosed with anxiety and depression after having an anxiety attack in his office. It was there where she finally admitted that I was diagnosed with BPD, clinical depression, and social anxiety as a teenager. When I asked why she said I wasn't all those years ago, she denied that and fully lied in front of my dad and sister that I had just stopped wanting help and threw a fit and told everyone to leave me alone. All of those years, all of that progress I could have made towards being better lost because of her. And yes, my dad later admitted to me in private that he believed me and she has a narcissist diagnosis as well, but he is afraid of being alone and couldn't leave her. IDK if that made it better or worse, but I've learned to never trust them with serious information. When I was in 4th grade, 9 years old, my parents had pulled me out of school for a few weeks. They told me it's because I was too stupid for school and wasn't wanted there anymore. I spent those weeks getting screamed at, doing housework, yard work, whatever was needed to get out of this trouble I was in. Years later as an adult my mother told me the real reason I was pulled out. The school had apparently called because they were worried about the bruising and marks I constantly had. They were from my dad. He had gotten pissed about that and decided to keep me at home until all the marks went away. I was basically punished for weeks for having bruises by the person that caused them. I despise your parents. I'm so sorry for what they did to you. Raised by narcissists.